The title of this presentation is Skin, Hair, and Nail Concerns with Down Syndrome. Our presenter is Dr. Erin Daviniak at Church. We have a physician, Down Syndrome Center, and we also have Christina Sada over here.
Hi. Hello. Feel free to give me feedback. I'm Erin Daviniak. I've been a physician at the Down Syndrome Center for almost 12 years, and I know a lot of you. And so hi, and thanks for the moral support. I appreciate it. I'm going to be presenting today with Christina Quesada. Christina has had Down syndrome her whole life, so she has a lot more experience than I do, and I really appreciate it. People with Down syndrome are prone to a lot more skin conditions, as everybody knows here. We see a lot of dry skin almost universally, calluses, infections of all sorts of types, including bacterial and fungal, eczema, psoriasis, things related to allergies and autoimmune disorders, rosacea, venous dermatitis, and other unique conditions that I'll go through today. Dry skin is pretty much universal in this population. It can become very, very thick in certain areas where there's rubbing and the calluses. It can crack. This can happen with the lips too. The first thing that we look for with dry skin treatment is to look for other contributing causes, especially hypothyroidism, which is present in about 40% of people with Down syndrome. And then there's other medical causes and environmental causes, winter being the worst. People tend to have the worst dry skin in winter. The main treatment for dry skin is moisturize, moisturize, and moisturize. It has to be a routine and built in. If there's sensory issues, I'm going to discuss that at the end, but the main thing is to find a skincare product that you like. And Sam back there today was helping with a lot of choices at the table that's on the other side of the room. So feel free to pick up some of those. My recommendation is to try a bunch of different lotions and products and see what you like. And sometimes, the person with Down syndrome won't like it, and give it to a friend, give it to somebody else. But it's really important for a daily routine that you like what you have to use every day. There's lotions, creams, and emollients are the big treatments for dry skin. Emollients really keep the moisture in, but they're very thick and kind of annoying. So I usually only recommend them if you're going to use them short term to give a big burst of moisture to the skin, and then I'd recommend going with a lotion or a cream. And using the groove, so using the sense of love of routine is very important for keeping the moisturization routine up. Dr. Chacoin talked about self-modeling, peer modeling, and visual supports, and I'll talk more about these at the end, but these are definitely important to use with skincare routine. As far as dry skin is concerned, these are two of my favorite products for very dry skin. Urea cream and amlactin, which is ammonium lactate. They both sort of will dissolve away and smooth out the skin. This product I found on Amazon is really good. It has tea tree oil, aloe, and chamomile, and I've had several people use this product and say that it was life-changing for not only dry skin, but also folliculitis, and I'll talk about that next. Of note, I got both of these off of Amazon. There's a 40% cream that I didn't like at all because it didn't absorb in the skin. It just sort of made it would sort of pill up and fall off, so don't get the 40%, get 20%. And then amlactin is another great product. It kind of has a weird smell because it's made with ammonia, but it works great, and once it dries, it doesn't smell at all. It just won't dissolve. You won't fall in love with the smell, unless you're a cat. Brings me to my next slide, which is kind of related because it's routine, but I thought this was hilarious. The cats are saying, I don't know what it is, but they keep looking. So I just kind of segued a little bit into folliculitis. Folliculitis is inflammation of the hair follicles. So sometimes it's just red bumps where the hairs grow out or the hairs would grow out if you had hair there. Sometimes there's little pimples there. We see this in people with Down syndrome all throughout the body. The main parts we see are the upper back and the thighs, but we've seen it all throughout the body. We also see a lot of scarring from this. So I've noticed on a lot of people's upper backs, there's little white bumps where people previously had pimples that scar, and those are really hard to get rid of. But for that, I do again recommend going back to the urea or the N-lactin to try to smooth that skin out. Furunculosis is the big fancy medical word for boils. They're basically bigger, so a big pimple. A lot of times they'll heal on their own and they'll drain. Sometimes they get much, much bigger, and then they require antibiotics, and I'll get into that too. There's another condition called hidradenitis suppurativa, which is where people get boils and tracts, and we see that a lot in the armpits. The main place we usually see the boils are armpits and the folds between the leg and the body and the buttocks, but you can get them anywhere. When they get really big, they can turn into an abscess, which is like a very big pus-filled collection that needs to be drained. And then cellulitis, which is an infection of the skin, and those both require IV antibiotics to get treated initially. So hopefully if we can catch it in the early stages and start treatment there, then we can avoid, hopefully, things further down. So the main, this is again routine to avoid some of these infections is to wash and dry well once to twice daily. And then I listed a bunch of things that I found very helpful to reduce the bacterial load, including benzoyl peroxide. And I know one of Christina's products that she uses is benzoyl peroxide. A warning, it is a great product. Panoxyl is a body wash that's benzoyl peroxide. It also comes in a bar soap that's awesome, but it's very hard to find for some reason. It's great because it works well, but the problem is it will bleach anything that it comes in contact with. So if you're going to use it as a body wash, it's great because you wash it off totally and you don't have to worry about it bleaching out everything that you own. But if you put it on as a spot check, you just need to know that like, if you use it on your face, probably use some white washcloths because if they're not white, to think that they live after you use this. I've had luck with people using witch hazel, especially on the upper back. There's a topical clindamycin, which is unfortunately a prescription. It tends to work well for some people and not for others. Hard to know what the difference is between people, why it works, so it's worth trying. It's getting harder and harder to get covered by insurance, which is very frustrating, but I can write a letter. They used to cover it for everybody, and now over 18 on a lot of plans, they won't cover it anymore. But if what you're working doesn't work, just let us know and we can write a letter and try. A lot of people have had luck with bleach baths. So this is where you take a quarter cup of bleach and put it in the bathtub and you soak for 5 to 10 minutes. You're basically replicating a swimming pool. It smells, because it's chlorine, so it smells just like a swimming pool. And it tends to work really well. A lot of dermatologists will recommend this, a quarter cup of bleach in the bathtub and soak for 5 to 10 minutes twice a week. It will dry out the skin, so it works great to decrease bacterial load, but it will dry out the skin, so then you really have to make sure those days you're using your routine really well. Hibiclens is another antibacterial that a lot of surgeons will recommend to cleanse the skin before surgery. So there are people that use that on a regular basis as well. And then outside of products, reducing friction, using looser clothes and powders to allow the skin to air out is helpful. Other things that are important are healthy diet, activity, good sleep, reducing your stress. And Dr. Chapoine talked about stress and it probably affects every body part, but definitely the skin. Weight loss, if it's needed, can be helpful to keep, because weight gain will stretch the pores. Staying well hydrated, so look at look at your your bracelets. That's related to probably everything we're talking about today too. And there is a booth with some bubbly drink that can be hydrated in our area over there with the vendors. Some people have had luck with vitamin C, zinc, and a multiple daily vitamin to help their skin. Some people don't. I don't know what the difference is. If there are any question about dietary deficiency, if people are kind of picky eaters, I think trying those is worthwhile. And I've had other people have luck with turmeric and other natural anti-inflammatory supplements. Last but not least, for people that have a lot of skin concerns and nothing works, we do have people on a small daily dose of antibiotic that seems to work really well. There seems to be some other benefit from the antibiotic rather than just antibiotic, but there's an anti-inflammatory effect. Because I've had people on it for years and it continues to work, which to me doesn't make sense if you're going to have a risk of developing some sort of resistance, but it seems to work. Treatment for an acute boil, warm compresses, soaps, topical pain relief. There's a product called Boilies, that's benzocaine, like a 20% benzocaine, so it'll numb it up real good. Tylenol. When it opens, trying to keep it clean with an antibiotic ointment and a bandage to try to prevent scarring. And then again, assess for spreading infection. If the boil gets really big and will need to medically be opened up, or if it spreads to the surrounding skin and there's any redness, then that would definitely need to be evaluated by a doctor. Next is the fungus among us. There's so many types of fungus. I was going to list them and then it was just a little overwhelming. But you can get Candida intertrigo is the fancy name for infections in the fold areas. So we'll see often underneath the abdominal fold, sometimes in the crease between the legs and the body, underneath the breast to the armpits in many places. It has a very distinct smell, some of the funguses. So I know a lot of people who are very private, their family might know that something is going on based by an odor. Fungal infection in the nails is called onychomycosis. There's a fungal component to dandruff, and then ringworm is Tinea cactus when you get a fungal infection on the scalp. Again, similar, so fungus loves warmth and moisture. So keeping something clean and dry is the most important, similar to the bacteria. Reducing friction also seems to help a great deal, especially if you're getting it in areas where the clothes rub, but you need to wear clothes. I've seen this a lot with like sports bras, pants, and so forth. There's two products with really awesome names and labels that I love. Anti-monkey nut powder. It's made with calamine, and so it's very drying, and it really helps to reduce the friction, and it tends to work well. So this is one of my preferred products that I found people can use with. There's also topical antifungals creams. There's a shampoo for dandruff called Nizero. There's a 1% over-the-counter and a 2% prescription that work great. Oral antifungals I've used on occasion. Diflucan is fluconazole. If I get a case of fungus that's not responding to topical antibiotics, or it's really bad, and it's gotten so bad where the skin is broken, I really want it to heal right away, I'll use an oral antifungal. Nails, toenail fungus is difficult. I usually recommend Vicks, keeping the nails real dry, drying them with a hair dryer on cool setting after a shower or bath to keep them as dry as possible. We have had people do the oral antifungals, but it does tend to come back. So if people want to do it, and you need to monitor the liver to make sure that the antifungals aren't hurting the liver. If people do want to go the route, I just warn them that it's difficult to get rid of and it often comes back. And I would recommend getting a really good routine in place so that if you can't get rid of it, you could try to prevent it from coming back. We have had people with a lot of sensory issues that have actually had their nails removed. as a treatment, which sounds extreme, but for some people where the nails grow so long they start digging in underneath, it's a totally valid option for. And then, of course, continue the preventive measures to prevent recurrence. Other skin conditions that we see, eczema, I'm sure everybody knows about. Most of us have it when we're young, and some people are lucky enough to get it later. It's inflammatory. There's probably an allergy component. Itchy, red, scaly. The treatment is moisturization, so if you can get a good skincare routine, that helps. And then topical steroids if needed. I usually recommend starting with an over-the-counter hydrocortisone 1%. The problem with steroids is the higher the potency you use, the more likely it is to thin the skin out over time. Although that being said, I see much less of this in this population, and I don't know why, which is a good thing. But starting with a low potency steroid first, and then increasing it, if you need. Psoriasis is extremely difficult. It's autoimmune. It's a lot like eczema, but more raised, and patching can be very itchy. The treatments, the initial treatments are pretty much the same, but if it's throughout the body and debilitating, I'd recommend going to a dermatologist for assessment. There's also other conditions like arthritis that are associated with psoriasis, which is another reason to see a dermatologist, and you might be referred to a rheumatologist and look at other conditions that might be related. Rosacea is another common thing that we see with facial redness. So I read up all about it last night for this presentation and realized that I should just keep it short. There's a lot of different kinds of rosacea. It can be anywhere from red cheeks to papules to little spidery changes in the skin. There's flares and triggers, so stress, spicy foods, hot foods can make things worse. The main treatment is mild cleansing, and treatments like sunscreen is really important because the sun really brings out triggers. As far as prescribing, there's only a couple that most insurance seem to cover, especially for Medicare, Medicaid, like metronidazole cream. There's others out there that can be tried. Again, would require a prior auth, so if what you're using doesn't work, we can go from there. There's a condition called ocular rosacea. So if you have rosacea, there can be other conditions associated with it. So I always recommend mentioning to your eye doctor that, hey, my doctor told me I have rosacea. Is there anything going on with my eyes? And they can take a closer look at it. Venous stasis dermatitis is another thing that we see. So people with Down syndrome tend to have leaky veins. More so with obesity, but I've seen it in people without. It causes this kind of discoloration, usually like in this area. It's really more cosmetic than anything, but it can be more prone to infection and breaks in the skin because the skin has changed. So this is, again, good skincare routine, moisturizing. Some people, and this is plus or minus having varicose veins associated with this, will recommend compression stockings or sleeves. That's a difficult call. Sometimes if they're not put on right or they don't fit right, they kind of bunch up and they can actually cut into the skin and be more likely to cause infection. Plus it holds warmth and moisture because it's not breathable. So I'm kind of up in the air on that, and would probably make that an individual decision with somebody. Other skin conditions that we see that are benign, but people will bring up are idiopathic calcinosis. They're like little white dots, usually around the eyes. If they really bug you, you could go to a dermatologist for definitive treatment, but it's just cosmetic. And so is serangoma, which are like these kind of fatty deposits under the eyes that, and these can be in anyone in the general population too. We tend to see a little more. It's like I said, it's mostly cosmetic. These ones aren't really associated with other things, just something that we see more often. I probably should have put this more with the dry skin, but going back to the mouth area, we tend to see a lot of cracked, dry lips. My favorite products are Aquaphor and Lanolin. If you've never used Lanolin, women who are lactating will use, where they lactate. But it's very, very thick and sticky, and it works great on the lips. It makes a great barrier. So I highly recommend that if you have a crack in your lip and you can't get anything else to heal it. Sometimes we see cracks in the corner of the mouth. That could just be similar to the dry cracked lips, but that can also be a sign of a vitamin deficiency, like the B vitamins, iron, or zinc. So it's worth checking those with routine blood work if that's a concern. I found some people recommend a 1-in-1 if you want to do your own remedy of hydrocortisone and monostat, but I get worried of people licking that area. Also, same people recommend Vicks Vapor Rub, but again, you don't want to lick that. So this is a case where I might prescribe like a short burst of an oral antifungal if I think there's a fungal component and nothing else is healing it, to try to get it to heal while we're doing a topical. And then people have had luck with castor oil too, which I guess you can lick and stay regular. We see a lot of autoimmune problems in people with Down syndrome, and when related to the skin, we see this as vitiligo and alopecia. There's not a whole lot of treatment for vitiligo, and for alopecia, it's very difficult too. They usually recommend starting with a high potency steroid cream or ointment. It's hard to know whether it works or not because alopecia has an extremely variable course. Sometimes people get a patch and it grows back and they never get it again. Sometimes they get one, it comes back somewhere else. It's the most variable course of anything. If people are very affected and concerned about it, the dermatologist can do steroid injections, which can decrease the autoimmune response and help to grow hair. So for anything that there's a concern, there's always an option to refer to a dermatologist. A few very unique things that we see in people with Down syndrome are acrocyanosis and, it took me a year to say this, Elastosis perforans serpiginosa. Acrocyanosis is purple, red, bluish, usually feet and hands, but it can extend up the arms and legs. It's not painful, and it's caused by constrictions of little tiny blood vessels. You'll see this in newborns also before they sort of pink up. I tend to see this more with age, and definitely more in the winter. Seems to be triggered by cold. But it's almost like people are mood rings, like they're this purple color, their hands and feet, and if you push on it, it becomes white, and then it pinks back up again. I've seen it in a couple cases, like so severe, it's almost like purple like your bags. And I've had a couple people where when winter suddenly hit, this kind of came out of nowhere and they've ended up in the ER. What it is not, that I've seen it misdiagnosed in people that have come to me many times, is Raynaud's phenomenon, which is larger blood vessels that constrict, and that's actually can be either darker or can be white. It's extremely painful, and it really should be treated. I do actually have a couple of people that actually have that, but it's not any more common in people with Down syndrome than the general population. But the big difference is the Raynaud's is painful and probably should be treated, and the acrocyanosis is not. So just trying to keep the hands and feet warm can help, and if they stay kind of purple, it doesn't harm anything. The next that took me a while to pronounce is Elastosis perforans serpiginosa. It's not like it's crazy common in people with Down syndrome, but it's very, very, very rare, and one of the few populations that you see it in is here. I've had several people that have been to a dermatologist and even had it biopsied, and they still weren't sure what it was. It's the serpiginosa, I think is Latin or something, from snake-like. So it looks like little rings. and like razor bumps and rings. I've seen them mostly on the arms and legs. Apparently, it's most common on the back of the neck and the face. What's interesting is I finally had someone recently with the back of the neck, and it was the first time I've seen it on the back of the neck. Apparently, it could be itchy, although no one I've had has ever complained that it was itchy. It usually goes away, fades with age, so you can still might see the ring, but it might not be so red. There's not much you can do other than keep the skin moisturized. It's just an interesting finding. From my standpoint, it's been interesting because it's been misdiagnosed as other things where they don't know what it is, or they keep recommending steroid creams or this or that, and really there's not a lot you can do other than basic skin care. So in summary on kind of the common skin conditions that we see, some conditions are more common, some are difficult to cure. A lot of things are routine for maintenance skin care, and healthy lifestyle and routine are important for overall skin care. But now I wanted to introduce my co-presenter, or my co-presenter, Christina, to talk about her skincare routine. And we did take a picture.
Hi, I'm Alexander. I'm here to talk to you about what I do for my skincare. The first thing that I do every morning is wash my face, like to use the Clean and Clear Morning Burst face cleaner, because it's really wash my face nice without trying out. Then I use my sunscreen to help with my pimples. I use a CPAP machine at night to help me to breathe, and sometimes the mask gives me pimples around my mouth. When I use my Mary Kay Cover Conceal Foundation, it's really light and helps cover up every spot I have, and also I have sunscreen and that protects my face and night before bedtime. I wash my face with Clean Clear Neck Relaxing Deep Clean and wash. Also because I have really dry feet, I use foot cream. I like Mary Kay Mid Twist Lotion for legs, feet, for the cream on my feet, and they put on socks. One a week I like to use a face mask help every root of my dry skin to put moisturize my face. I like the Mary Kay Clean Max and making mix for dry and smooth skin. As you can see, I like Mary Kay Texas. I am Mary Kay Web. I sell all Mary Kay skin care makeup products. It makes me really happy to be working with the skincare and makeup.
Which one am I? Okay. Thank you, Christina. So Christina also brought up the sunscreen. Thank you, because I didn't. Thank you for remembering that, how important sunscreen is. I always forget about it because like we haven't seen the sun in so long.
Turn it off.
I wanted to talk about, the benefit of skincare. Is it okay if I show the next slide? Christina? This is Christina. Thank you. I had written out Christina's skincare routine. I don't know if anybody made it to Katie Frank, our occupational therapist's last breakout session. But when I showed it to her, she was able to make a visual of Christina's skincare routine. It was amazing. She pulled this out in like 5 minutes, including getting the pictures of the products. So integrating in, we see lots of sensory issues and need for routine. Katie Frank, our occupational therapist, is amazing, not only with sensory things, but also with getting people visuals to help them keep organized throughout the day. So I basically gave her that, and she turned it into that. So this is a benefit that, coming to clinic, you can always make an appointment with Katie or talk to her when we're in for an appointment. She could help make visuals for anything, not just skincare, but it's really helpful for skincare. She can laminate it, use a dry erase marker to mark things off and keep things organized. A lot of people will keep this in their bathroom to make sure that their routine is kept. Another thing that Katie has done and was on the Facebook page is products for people with sensory issues. So a lot of people don't like touching their skin. There's a whole lot of products out there that can make things easier. The top part are products that you apply to wet skin. Although I do recommend not putting them on in the shower because I just don't want like globs to fall on the bottom if you fall. So maybe do it on wet skin if you step out, or have some way that you don't trip on that. And then afterwards, there's a bunch of spray lotions out there. So even if someone needs a lot of assistance, they can just stand and get sprayed just like you would with like a spray suntan. Any questions? Karen? Absolutely.
The end. Tells it.
Okay, so I just want to ask you real quick. So, because I'm extremely pale skin, so is that just me or is that all people with Down syndrome?
That's, just you.
Thanks a lot.
That's from our family. So that's a great question. Because a lot of people with Down syndrome have conditions related to Down syndrome and conditions related to all the genes you got from your family. So you were lucky to get all the fair skin genes.
Thank you, Rachel. I do want to say one thing. I do gotta say, I am one of Dr. Benini's patients, and I just want to say that I'm a very common patient right now. You did a great job. Thank you. You're very welcome. Very, very welcome.
Thank you.
Eric, Robin is recipient of a PACE National Notice University, and my skin is like the cream before your bed.
Oh, what cream do you use before you go to bed?
I use my produce for your skin.
How did you pick that one?
Before your bedtime, when you go to sleep.
Great. And that's nice too, because then it's on you while you sleep for several hours.
Yeah, that's kind of right.
It's nice. Thank you. Do you use a sunscreen? You have the fair skin, I think that Erin
Yeah, I
has.
used to make a sunscreen on
Great.
for your spray time.
Oh, great. We're getting close.
That's right.
Thank you.
How many times in a motion?
Oh, it depends. I recommend at least twice a day. But usually in the winter, you need it a lot more than that.
In summer?
In the summer, well, in the summer, if you use the sunscreen lotion, sometimes you're outside, so you're using the sunscreen lotion too.
Can I use the idea?
Yeah, Nivea is a great product.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We see quite a bit of buildup in the scalp, and it seems beyond typically. Try spreading it with nasal care. Is that something that
Yeah. I usually will start with, people start with Head and Shoulders for the scalp, or Selsun Blue. If it doesn't work, then I'll add on the Nizoral shampoo, and that's an antifungal shampoo I use twice a week. I have had people where that didn't work, and I actually used a prescription called Dovanox, that's used for psoriasis, and it's worked. And it comes in like a liquid on the scalp, so that's kind of the progression I'll use if things don't work.
I have a question and I have two.
Okay.
So sometimes I have acne and small on my face that I usually do my I do with water. Yeah, I have that food doesn't feel the face one that I do. Like all on my face. I usually do.
Does it work for you?
For the summer, I will have a liquid. Here, the liquid.
Do it work for you?
But some way to bowling green.
Does it have a sunscreen?
he likes to swim, and so you mentioned the bleach baths kind of mimics
Yeah,
swimming. So is it actually good for him
I-
to swim as long as he?
I've had a lot of parents say that, like, especially when it's during swim season, the skin is so much better. And so those are the ones where I'm like, oh, the bleach baths, do that off season, because you're like kind of replicating the swimming thing. Yeah.
It's good to swim.
Yeah, I mean, chlorine, you're gonna have some people that it might irritate, there's always, but some people that are unfortunate with their skin, but for a lot of people, it can help to really decrease the bacterial load on the skin.
Here's my mom.
Christina did a fabulous job. Thank you, Christina. One of the tips that she gave was to put socks on after putting the lotion on your feet. Do you have any other techniques or tips to absorb the lotion?
The socks is a great idea. Some people, and I actually did it myself this winter, because we wash our hands before and after patients, the bathroom, and this and that. Like my thumb was cracking really bad, so I actually got the cotton gloves. So before I went to bed, I put on Aquaphor and cotton gloves. First I woke up and it was halfway across the room. I have no idea how it got there. But it did seem to help for whatever I did have it on. Sometimes it's a struggle because you can have dry skin, but if you get too moist, then the fungus wants to come out. So it's like, oh, it's not moist. So sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but if there's a part that really needs to be moisturized, putting moisturizer and keeping something in it, emollients are really good. They're thick creams. But like I said, they're kind of annoying. If you want to use them at night, that's the only time I would use them. But those things really work. They're just super thick creams. So instead of needing to wear anything else, I just didn't want to get stuff everywhere.
So, I also have another question. I have a certain friend that has a hard time with cracked legs a lot. And, so, the two things that you recommended for other cracked legs, could that help, like how bad it is? Can it be effective on like anyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the lanolin this winter because I got a crack too, and it really helped. But the problem is on the lips, you talk, you speak, you drink, so you have to keep putting it on and putting it on and putting it on. But if you do it, it does tend to work pretty well. Yeah.
Okay, no, it's not. Thank you.
So this is more of a counter to what she brought up, and maybe I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have psoriasis pretty bad, like on my lid and stuff like that. And I found that taking like at night, taking emollient and applying it heavily, and then wrapping Saran wrap around it and letting it in, it keeps it in place, and you don't wake up with like oily sheets all over the place. So like that might be something to consider.
Oh, that's really helpful. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, once there's like a crack on the feet or something, once it's opened up, what is good for that?
Yeah, it's hard. If it just looks dry, using an emollient and sleeping with the socks on, but sometimes it's fungal, so I have to look at it. The interesting thing with athlete's foot and people with Down syndrome is, like in the general population, it looks really red and irritated, and sometimes in people with Down syndrome, it just looks dry. It was really, really dry.
It gets so dry that it looks like it's a knife cut. You know,
yeah, I would probably start with something for athlete's foot. Especially if lotions and creams aren't working. Sometimes you do the athlete's foot treatment and then it goes away. It's like, oh, there was a fungal component there, it was classic. Yeah, that's tough though.
I have a question about the prostitution. When you were talking about skin conditions like rashes and stuff, does that actually like poison ivy too? Because anytime I usually go out in the woods with poison ivy, I'd be like a rash everywhere, and I think it's even uncomfortable for me for that. So, is it like is there any like ointments that would do to get rid of the rash or poison ivy?
There is, and we have seen poison ivy. There's actually a couple creams out there that you can use. Some are supposed to bind to the poison ivy. So if you go, they're over the counter, all of them. They're kind of pricey. See me if you ever want, because they usually send me free samples. Treating it can be really hard though. Sometimes with poison ivy, you need a steroid taper to really knock it out, because poison ivy is nasty.
Thank you, and good job on the presentation.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to offer any skincare tips that they use that help? They're Erin.
What I do, because since I said I have very sensitive skin, because this happens to me a lot, especially when it's really cold out. I put lotion on like every night after I shower. I put lotion on. That's what I do.
What's your favorite lotion, Erin?
I use Burt's Bees, but after what you recommended, I'm just looking for that. Anyone else wants to make one? Yeah.
Oh, this is my cat Bella. Like, so, yeah, she probably just go up here. Well, that's why I also put the glove on, I didn't want to look at her. But she has a really good routine, so I thought she was a good model.
Do you have any thoughts on hair thinning?
Everything, oh, it's tough. Check a thyroid and a blood count to make sure no anemia or no thyroid. It's difficult. Sometimes it could be related to Down syndrome, sometimes it could be family genes. Rovine topical is over the counter. Worth trying. Question whether that might even work with alopecia, I don't know. I read so much stuff on the internet the last couple weeks, hard to know. But, I mean, it's topical, and as long as someone doesn't have a reaction, it might be worth trying. It's relatively cheap.
Is that for more alopecia or just, this is just like?
More for general hair thinning.
And what was
Yeah, I don't have a lot of patients that have used it, so I don't have a lot of experience there. But I mean, it's marketed for, male pattern, female pattern baldness, so if there's a, familial thin hair, that might help. But checking thyroid and checking blood work.
Is it more hyper, because she's already got hypothyroid? Is it more when it's hyperthyroid?
I've seen it both ways.
I think.
And then maybe looking at dandruff too, or seborrheic dermatitis, 'cause that can also thin out the hair. There's a problem with grasping out scalp.
Oh, okay, Dan.
Anyone else with good skin tips? There's a lot of skin in this room. All around.
Yeah, but you're being treated by a dermatologist, so you're all taken care of. The same thing.
Yeah, you have beautiful hair. Any tips that you want to offer? Yes, it should be. Great.
It's really hot here.
Okay.
I came in late, so I don't know if you already covered it. Acne on the back, really bad.
Yeah, folliculitis. We see inflammation where the hair follicle is. Sometimes it's either pustules or just red and raised.
Yeah, it's really raised.
Yeah, the upper back is where we tend to see it. And then we see a lot of scarring after it goes away. So those little white things that are everywhere are really hard to get rid of. For that one, I recommend either the amlactin or the urea.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Those two can help. I mean, they won't fix it. Even if you go to a derm, they could do like dermabrasion, all sorts of crazy stuff. This will like at least thin it out a little bit. This cream in particular, I've had a lot of people with upper back folliculitis say that it's helpful for. I've gotten it off of Amazon. It is tea tree oil, aloe, and chamomile, so it's kind of soothing for the skin. I've gotten it off of Amazon, that I mentioned earlier. It's something to 40%, but don't get the 40%, get the 20%.
Oh, okay.
Because the 40% is too thick.
And it's just called urea cream?
Yeah, it's the brand, and I'm not promoting any brands, but this one is the only one I found like it is called Pure Sources. I think it's $12.99 off of Amazon, and it's a decent sized jar.
Thank you.
Because you've got your problems. I know.
So swimming might be really great for individual skin. However, I've noticed some of our swimmers in Special Olympics, their hair suffers. So do you suggest a tea tree oil or some type of argan oil to be able to help their hair?
There are a bunch of swimming shampoos that are designed to get the chlorine out of the hair and the scalp. I'd probably start with those. Yeah, so like any kefir store will have it, anything like that.
Can you register
Oh, I wish, I think they're all over the counter.
Yeah, still use it.
Oh, yeah, let me know if you need a script, I'll be happy to. We can Google kefir, yeah, swimming shampoos.
Hello. Oh, I just have a quick question on emollient creams.
Yeah.
And what are some of the best ones that you recommend?
Oh gosh, I've gotten, if you look online, pretty much anything that says dermatologist recommended is good. They tend not to put any smells or dyes or anything else in it. There's so many brands out there. There's something, and I can't think of the something, but those would be the main ones to look for.
Okay.
And if I remember next time your mom's in the office, we have samples of stuff, so remind me and I'll grab some.
This is a tiny bit different, but what is the story with earwax and Down syndrome?
Oh,
What, does it, if you have too much, does it affect the hearing? How often should you be cleaning?
it can definitely affect the hearing. In fact, I've had a couple times where I've seen older people, I've flushed it out and then hear their dementia, which is like the coolest thing ever. So, we will love, sorry, I'm still not gonna. Oh, it was a loud zipper. We'll clean it out in the office with, you can either pick it out or use the flushing. You can do it as long as someone doesn't have an ear tube or a hole in their ear, either from a previous ear tube or from an infection, or we could refer to an ear, nose, and throat doctor to remove it. Once I see that, we take someone's earwax out and I know that there's no hole or tube, we'll recommend either mineral oil, olive oil, or baby oil, 3 to 4 drops in each ear. If you can get someone to sit for like just 30 seconds to kind of get in there, that kind of helps the body take it out on their own. And even if it doesn't, then if you flush it, it kind of flies out because it's like lubricated and comes out. But yeah, it can definitely affect hearing. It's amazing. We tend to see very small ear canals. And so between the small ear canals and the earwax buildup, it can definitely affect hearing.
Instead of sweet oil.
Yeah, definitely, we don't recommend, I'll keep going on earwax. We don't recommend Q-tips because especially, and anybody, especially in this population, because it tends to like jam it in. But if you can use the oil, and if you want to use like a little bit of warm water, to flush it, warm, not hot, and definitely not cold. If you put cold water in someone's ears, they'll get really, really dizzy. So just make sure it's at least like a room temperature or warmer, to kind of flush out what's there, as long as there's no cold or heat. Years, yeah. Yeah, it can. So we do see like a lot of the seborrhea. Sometimes we can see around the ears and the dandruff stuff. There's a lot of khaki behind the ears. Another thing I think I see is when people maybe when, and I'm not sure if it's related, but I've heard this based on people's history, that maybe not all the shampoo is getting washed off behind the ears, and then that can cause like a rash too, so just make sure you get behind the ears. Behind the ears and between the toes are like two spots that are pretty easy to miss. And especially drying between the toes, that can be a nice for the fungus too, because the toes are kind of smushed together. So make sure when you dry, it kind of dries between the toes. Athletes with the between the toes looks really wet. So sometimes if you pull the toes together, it'll look like white and kind of wet. They call it laceration. That's fungus probably. So sometimes you get rid of it by drying it, and then for like the wet stuff, I'll recommend like a spray athlete's foot treatment. No drying. It can, yeah. The pool. Does it come out? Oh. You never know what's in your pool. You have a question in the back?
I have a question I wanted to bring up too. I have rosacea, and I have got treatments to use for my rosacea. I get it to my eyes, to my face, and the question is that I get treated by a dermatologist, and I see that I do have eczema. I wanted to know what Erin had to say about this.
Keeping the eczema hydrated, so using the lotions and creams is really important. And then if it gets really itchy or inflamed, you can use a steroid cream.
I do a lot of treatments, and I do a lot of moisturizing lotion for my eczema, and I do a lot of treatments for my face and everything.
What do you use on your face?
I use these treatments I get from my dermatologist gives me.
Retro cream.
Is it
Retro cream, and I also do CeraVe, all those things.
Okay. Yeah, those are another, you're looking for the molding.
It's tropical type treatment that I use for the rosacea, and I also for my skin, and I use for my eczema I use moisturizing for my skin. I drink a lot of water.
Great.
I want to know your question is, Erin.
Anyone else?
I think she said it's just to say something for example. Same thing. So why don't you pass that to somebody?
Where?
I put on my hands before I go to bed, because that's my brightest part. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and rest makes good skin too. You can keep you healthy.
Yeah. And